I cannot do it anymore in the other view.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending where you are. Welcome to the All You Need to Know About Managed Secure Access training program. Today's pre-sale session focuses on more details compared to what we have covered in the previous sales track. This is for pre-sales, professional services, consultants, project managers, SDM, and SOC managers to have more detailed information about the MSA offering. We will stay together for the coming 2.5 hours. Please stay tight. And we will get 3 short breaks in between. Some housekeeping. Please put your mics on mute to control background noise. If you have any question, please put it in the chat and one of us will pick it up. At the end of the session, you will get an opportunity to unmute yourself and ask further questions. And we will kindly ask you to provide your feedback at the end. Please take a minute to fill out this. This is important for us. It helps us improve the sessions and to make sure that it continuously meets your needs. Our hosts today are Zoe Proster, Head of Innovation, Rob Peters, Global SASE Lead Architect, Dan Gribble, MSA Global Tech Lead, and at the same time, he is leading Netscope, so he's the tech lead for Netscope. And myself, John Atif, Product Manager, responsible for the managed SASE and SSE offering. Today's pre-sales track is part of an enablement program, as I mentioned. The program contains other tracks focusing on sales as well as service delivery. To allow the maximum number of people to attend, each track will be run twice. For more details around the full enablement, including the invites that you can add to your calendar, please check the link which Dan will provide shortly in the chat. Today's session builds on top of the sales track we had last week. We will go today into more details which pre-sales are interested in. If you didn't attend the sales track, you will miss the unique selling points of Managed Secure Access, which we will not cover today, and for which I would suggest that either you watch the recording or attend the last sales track, which will be planned on the 6th of October. At the end of the session, we will provide you with the schedule for the upcoming sessions as well. We will cover 4 main topics today. We will dive into the business objective approach. You will learn how to run those workshops, and we will see together a real example. We will understand how the product documentation is structured, where to find the latest documents, and we will open some of the main documents and go through the minimum information that you need to know about each of them. You will understand the MSA delivery model and the points you need to take into account when working with Orange Business. Finally, we will go through a full pricing exercise, including vendor quotes. As pre-sales consultant, how should you pitch SSE and SASE to customers? I have seen this in the past. The first thing that some pre-sales try to determine is the vendor. Once the vendor is determined, they bring them in front of the customer to talk about their technology, their solution, and in parallel, they try to show how experienced we are working with that vendor, the certifications we hold, the number of other customers we support, and so on. Although this approach is common among all the market players we come across, it is not helping you to differentiate yourself from the crowd and get remembered following a presentation or a meeting. And to set the right expectations about what we will cover today, we are not going to cover what you would normally hear from a vendor when they pitch to customers, neither the difference between the vendors, nor the battle cards or a decision tree to how to come down to a vendor selection. We are coming today to tell you how to tell a unique story that will differentiate you from the crowd and make your audience see you as their star pre-sales. Our primary role as pre-sales PS consultants in Orange Cyber Defense is not to sell the technology, is not to explain to the customer how the Palo, the Netscope, the Zscaler, or the Fortinet solution works. Of course, the more details you know, the better. This knowledge definitely helps. But this is not our unique value that we are bringing to customers. We are not here to push products and features. Any small integrator can do this equally good and sometimes even better than us. What we are actually here to sell are business outcomes to our customers. Our job is to understand what our customers are trying to achieve as business and then show how SASE and SSE can be the strategic enabler to get them where they want to be faster, more securely, and with less risk. For instance, if a company is doing multiple acquisitions every year, what they actually want when thinking about SASE and SSE is how to speed the integration of a new company post-acquisition without compromising security. For that, we have created a business-first approach, which we call the business objective approach. Rob, can you take us through and explain further how this approach works?
Sure, John. Good morning, everyone. So, as John is saying, one of the things that we're not doing is going in from a technical perspective, and we get a lot of questions from our colleagues like, hey, do we have battle cards for this? Can we do it like that? What we've seen over the last year is that taking the business objectives approach is really adding to our story from a SASE and SSE perspective. So the focus that we have is on the customer's business priorities. That gives us a completely different conversation than we had before, and brings us into discussions with the C-suite, with the CISO, with the CTO, etc., CFO sometimes as well. And it makes it much easier for people to understand what the return of investment is as well. We also actually help our customers with return of investment around what we're doing as well. If the people can go on mute, that would be great. Thank you very much. So besides the technology, and you'll hear me say it a couple times this morning or afternoon, depending where you're from, but basically it isn't focused on just the technology. In my opinion, the technology is just 30% of the whole story. It's also about the people and process side of it as well. We embed this within our security posture management, which is the most important part of our solution. We have designated security advisors advising our customers that understand their organization and are driving this conversation. Again, not just from a technological perspective. This is where we're very strong, but we're more and more focusing on the people and process side of this as well. And if the customer is not already fully aware of capabilities of all the vendors, we can use this to help align this with the vendor as well. So we do this in the pre-sales phase, and I will show you later as well. But more and more, we're also doing this on the post-sales side as well, where our security advisors understand the customer, understand the hierarchy, the unofficial hierarchy inside of an organization, help bridge the gap between networking and security environment, and drive the conversation to make sure that they get the maximum out of their licenses and maximum out of what they've bought. And also, at the beginning, making sure that we don't buy any licenses from any vendors that require that the customer doesn't require because it isn't part of their environment. So how we do that is, and we've been designing this for a while now, is that we've created 15 standardized business objectives, and these are just. And for me, it's more about the mindset as well. These are just examples. And when you go through these 15 mindsets, business objectives, I mean, the customer starts to see a certain mindset, starts to see a certain approach that I will be taking you through today as well, which means we can also build industry specific ones or even customer specific ones when we talk to our customers. So when we go through them, and I'll quickly just give a couple examples here. So one that's very popular is number one, control sensitive data propagation. This is all about how to deal with AI and generative AI in general. So how to avoid any intellectual property being published on chatbots, but allowing users to do their work and using AI in the right way. So we help them by making sure that nothing that isn't compliant to the organization leaks into the chat GPTs of this world. But we are allowing any other question that the customer might have that improves, of the user might have, that improves their situation. Another very important one is number two, move towards zero trust, where we look at zero trust network access. I'll come back to that one in more detail as we go on. But for example, one that takes in a completely different direction is number seven, accelerate business in China. So as many of you know, China is by itself a completely different beast to tackle, not just from a technological perspective, but we need to make sure that we have the right processes there as well. We need to make sure that we're legally compliant also. We have a team in China that is very specialized in doing exactly that. So from a technological perspective, we know we need an additional tenant, but in certain cases with certain vendors, you don't have to manage that tenant in a separate user interface. You could do it in the same way. So what's the best way of doing that? Well, we can help you if that is an important business objective for you. Another interesting one is number 13, DevSecOps. DevSecOps is one that we saw a lot, where there's a lot of DevOps people inside of an organization that have no security controls whatsoever, because they're not used to it. They just spin up whatever they want, wherever they want. And the organizations allow them, because if you enforce security controls on DevOps people, they'll start going to other companies that don't have those and don't how do you say, make it difficult for them to do their work. So how do you set that up properly? DevSecOps is actually a combination of quite a few of the business objectives that we have. I don't know exactly by heart which ones we grouped here, but quite a few, like 1, 2, 3, for example, I believe are in there. But then just specifically for a group inside of an organization. So this way you start to show the customer that you understand better how their organization works, not just, again, from a technological perspective, but also how it works with people and processes. The last one that I want to highlight right now is number 15, accelerate mergers and acquisitions and third-party access. This is all about adding the security controls to a company that got acquired. So how do you set that up properly, and how do you set up third-party access properly? One way of doing this is through what we call an enterprise browser. So you copy, most of the activities and workloads are done. I think the research showed like 80 or 85% of a user is using their web browser to do their daily work. 85% is covered then by a specific web browser from a Netscope or Palo Alto, for example. And this is something that is new in the market. So what we're doing here is adding functionalities and features from the vendors. And they come to us and say, hey, we have something new. Would this be interesting for MSA as well? And we add that as another functionality or another business objective, allowing us to stay up to date. And having this conversation, not just with the customers, but also with the vendors, creates a push-pull where they come to us and say, hey, we have new features. How do we include them into your business objectives? Most of the vendors are very interested in having this discussion with us, while still having our own story. So this is not objectively how we should be taking it. This is Orange's story, subjective story on how we drive this. And this can be done preferably verbally with a customer presenting, but we can also put this mindset and approach in an RFI or an RFP and show to the customer how this works, and relay the mindset rather than just coming with a battle card that everyone can show. There's a lot of work that we've put into this, and it's been very successful, and I'll be showing you an example in just a few minutes on that as well. So once we've decided on once we decided together with the customer on which of the 4 or 5 business objectives, and I would say we're the average that we see in general is about 4 business objectives. We can use this in the pre-sales phase to help determine what vendor it is to use, or help determine in what direction we need to respond towards the customer. Sometimes in an RFI, RFP, we need to make that decision ourselves. So based on the information that we receive, we think it's these 4 business objectives. But in a lot of cases, we can have this discussion with customers as well. So once we have this determined, we can also use this in the post-sales phase. So when the security advisor comes around to say, hey, let's focus on optimizing protect internet access. So this is all about the SWG, the secure web gateway. Let's make sure that we have everything optimized in there. Let's make sure that we have zero trust network access properly configured for all the applications. So we can start focusing on these elements rather than trying to do everything, and enhancing the security posture management specifically on these items first before moving on to the rest of the business objectives. And not all business objectives will be as interesting for everyone. And again, these are just the standard ones. We can create specific ones for the customer as well. It's all about that mindset. So what we do is we capture the customer's voice. And this is the example for move towards zero trust. So for all of these, we have standardized capture the voice approaches, or text basically, detailing the challenge. But preferably we get the customer to be very specific on their specific needs, because then it starts to change what actually is needed for them. Again, from a business perspective, I don't want to talk too much about the technology. When we have customer meetings and we do the MSA explain to customers, the first meeting barely contains any technical conversations unless the customer brings it technically. I try to keep it as business focused and as high level as possible, because it's all, again, about the mindset. But the main focus here is that we focus on what is important for the customer. And we do that through what we call key success factors. So these key success factors are, from a technological perspective in orange, from a people point of view in blue, and from a process perspective in green. What we believe, and again, this is a standardized one, we can modify them accordingly because some customers will have different views on this. What we believe are the best practices around this. And you'll see things that are not necessarily specific to MSA, security awareness and trainings. This is something that we would like to have throughout our whole portfolio. Culture of least privilege, Jesus. To make sure that admins start to learn that they don't need full access all the time, but only when they have changes. That's a cultural change. That is not necessarily MSA specific or something we would pick up within MSA. This is where we can start linking in consultancy, for example. So we've been working with the Dutch consultancy, with Anton's team, for example, for a while now. We're working with the consultants within Egypt. We're working with the consultants in Germany, for example, the UK, to implement certain aspects that are not necessarily MSA specific, but help us to enable the technology and the drive on this as well. And then you have the process side of it as well, helping our customers having better lifecycle management, or in this case, continuous monitoring and auditing on this on their side as well, is really valuable for them. So we can help them. And again, some of this can be picked up within MSA. Some stuff can be done through our security advisors, but other stuff will be add-ons to this as well. So you can start opening the door to consultancy and driving this from a much more consultative perspective. And that's been the aim in the last couple months for John, Zoe, well, I guess a little bit less for Zoe now, but for John, Dan, and myself to drive this approach and add this consultancy type to it as well. Then in the pre-sales phase, we can start using the exact same thing that we just said as a differentiator to evaluate our vendors and the capabilities that they have around this. So again, we're taking the zero trust network access approach, or move towards zero trust, and we look at the technology side of it, and we then decide, and this is subjective. This is not an objective one, putting roadmaps next to each other and say, hey, Netscope is doing better than Zscaler is doing better than Palo Alto. because they can do X, Y, Z. No, this is differentiated from the answers that the customer has given. If the challenge is formulated in a different way, the outcome that you might see here on the left side might be different. So it already says illustrative example, but we've seen on this business objective alone already a huge difference depending on how the customer answers certain of our questions. So if, for example, the customer sees their internal environment as untrusted, Zscaler is the one that focuses on that the most. So this would already put them much higher than most of the other ones, where if you see it as trusted, then it's more towards the Netscope environment. But if the general conversation is more about total platforms, while implementing Zero Trust Network Access, you'll see that Palo Alto is more going up together with Fortinet as well. So it really depends how this conversation goes. And yeah, this differs. And there's a subjective part to this as well, where we add our advisory to what we think is the best at the moment when working together with these vendors. Are they easy to work with? I'll go through a specific example that we have had and been very successful in driving this approach, and it's the reason why we landed this customer as well. So I'll go there in more detail. So once we define those business objectives, and once we defined what the outcomes of those business objectives are, we come up with a summarized view where we say, hey, based on these needs and capabilities that you require, functionalities that you need, we believe that this is the best provider for you. So we use it in the pre-sales phase to help you make the decision, dear customer, but also internally to help drive a vendor agnostic approach towards our way of setting this up towards our managed service. But then once we start getting into the nitty-gritty details, we can actually start filtering out to the right vendor that is best for the customer. And to be honest, when it comes to these 4 vendors and also Microsoft included, there's not much from a technical perspective in between. If you would take a battle card around it, you'll see that the majority is the same. There's so many details that are simply the same, but which ones are really important for the customer when you look at this from a business point of view? That's the key focus. And the more we talk about it into the market, the earlier we get into these conversations. And this is key for our sales and pre-sales as well. We can differentiate this story and send a different story out to our customers. The customers are getting fed up on average and in general, I'm just generalizing here, with inviting vendors to their conversations and getting to listen to why they are the best in the market. This is unique. We have not seen from any other partners, any other managed service providers or any other vendors a business-focused approach. It tells a completely different story that we're the only ones telling it. So this is a real differentiator, and it's the one where we get the most conversations around when we have the conversation around what MSA is and what it does, etc. So keep that in mind. So what we've developed around this, and this is quite new for most of you, is that we started doing workshops around these business objectives. I think we started about probably 6 months ago around this. And what we do is we have 3 sessions. They're currently free of charge. And I'll let you know in a second how to book this as well. But basically what we do is we have a 45-minute conversation with the customer, and preferably not just the engineer of the customer or the head of IT, but also the CISO, or you can really ask them to come and sit down, because it's not going to be a technical discussion. It's going to be what is best for your company. So try to get C-level in there as well. We see more and more interest to that. So we do a 45-minute introduction and we explain the business objectives. So I just gave a few examples. I would spend 45 minutes going over all the business objectives, and hopefully the customer sees a trend on how these are set up, and then the customer could help decide on which ones they want to focus on. Plus, they could even create their own ones that we will co-create with them in order to drive the selection process for their specific infrastructure in their specific way. Then, and it's important that we get a 2-week preparation period in between, because these are manually handcrafted made presentations. Again, it really depends on the conversation with the customer, how the previous business objectives are getting rated. So we need about 2 weeks to create a presentation where we focus on the selected business objectives, give some more details around them, focus on the advice that we provide on that, the roadmap around it, the key success factors, and demo any potential differences between how Palo Alto does it versus how Netscope does it, for example. We're not in the process of showing all 4 vendors in that regard. What we see actually always when we do this is that it comes down to 2 different vendors that are very close to each other, and then you can start showing the different look and feels around it. And then from there, also depending on the conversation with the customer, we can help them with the right advice. So this presentation is focused on providing that advice. And then we have another week later, we let them digest what we've said to them, and we provide they provide feedback, and we align on the next steps moving forward. This workshop is a very powerful tool to use to start really getting discussion about what do we want to manage for them, what are the technical aspects around it. So this is where we start getting technical. This is so in the second presentation mainly. So that means that we have the intro on MSA first, then the introduction on the business objectives. So 2-3 meetings before we start getting into the technical details. We get there where a lot of our pre-sales and sales started in the past, and where our customers are focused on the most. If we can get them to take this step back, we have a very powerful approach in that regard. So how to book a free session around this is that we are driving this through a workshop. The 3 of us are the people that you get in contact with, but what we're hoping and aiming for, and now seeing some traction around as well, is that we want to utilize pre-sales locally in country as well to do these workshops. So we'll guide you through the workshops yourself as well. You do not need us per se to do them all by yourself. So the idea here is that you get in contact with us, and if we have local sales, pre-sales, or PS that are capable of supporting this, yeah, I'm seeing the notifications, guys. I'll be fine. So if we are seeing if we're seeing this, then we can move forward on that. So how to use the business objectives approach when talking. Oh, sorry, this is for you, John.
Yeah, but I think it's a continuation of what you were just saying, Rob. Yeah, and just to stress, yeah, that this approach is pretty unique in the market. Whenever we run a workshop with a customer or present to a vendor, we always hear that they have not seen anyone in the market doing it like this. So keep in mind, you have a story between your hands, an approach between your hands that can make you shine in the eyes of your audience. Okay, so how to use the business objective in conversation with customers? The first step is to determine the stage that your customer is at. Customers can be in one of 3 stages. Stage 1, those are the customers who are interested in SSE and SASE to solve certain problems. They are not yet sure from where to start. What do they need to take into considerations, or what are the prerequisites? Customers at stage number 2 are already past this point. They have already started engaging with the vendor. They started meeting the vendors, hearing how unique are they compared to the others in the market, but they have not yet decided on which vendor is the best for them. On the other hand, customers at stage 3 have already selected a technology vendor and are checking which partner will they use to work with to do the transaction, who will do the deployment, if they need a managed service, and so forth. As you probably see, those stages are sequential, which means most of the customers will go through the 3 stages, and our role is to identify at which stage is our prospect or client is at. I will not dig into this slide on how we adapt the business objective approach for customer at each stage, but I will highlight one point though. the earlier we engage with customer, the bigger scope we can cover in our workshops. For instance, a customer who have already selected a vendor, so they are in stage 3, there is no point to discuss with them the differences between the technology vendors, the key success factors, the vendor scoring, and so forth. In contrast, if we are talking with a customer who is still at stage number 1, where we can influence the customer towards our approach, open opportunities for managed services, for consultancy, for professional services, for advisory, we also have higher negotiation power when it comes to discussing with the vendors that would best fit the customer requirements. So if we look into this slide, we basically strive to be our customer trusted advisors, because trusted advisors open lots of being a trusted advisor. It opens lots of upselling opportunities, because always customers are willing to buy more from the people they trust. And we can achieve that by engaging early with them while they are still at stage 1. Engaging with customer at stage 1 translates to building trust and credibility by showing thought leadership in the SASE and SSE space. We are, margin, we are all experienced sales-minded people. And you know for sure that margin is always linked with the value that everyone brings to the table. So a distributor who is only transacting an order will get a single-digit margin. A provider who is providing a limited service will get a bit more. Only the MSSPs who brings unique value are able to reach the high margin potentials that we want to achieve. One of the key benefits for engaging early with customers and not jumping too quickly in the boat with one of the vendors, bringing the vendor very early and putting them in front of the customer, it basically gives us higher negotiation power with vendors. Imagine the example that I just mentioned. A customer is already at stage 3. They have already selected a vendor, let's say Zscaler. The vendor is already in the driver's seat and we are only following them. And we have just been driven by where the vendor would like the deal to go. In contrast, if we started having a business-oriented conversation without involving the vendors too early, we are in the driver's seat. And now, when we go back to Zscaler, for instance, we are the sales heroes or the pre-sales heroes who is bringing them new opportunities. And this is where they will give you protection, they will give you extra discounts, and they will give you partner awards. So to summarize, engaging early with customers at stage 1 translates into stronger influence of the customer, increased win chances for the whole deal, more upsell opportunities, remember the professional services, the advisory, bigger scope, better margins, and of course, better compensation and commissions for sales, and finally, higher negotiation power when talking with vendors. So please engage early so that we are able to win big. Rob, can you tell us more about a practical example how the business objective was used to drive business-oriented conversation with a customer?
Sure. So please be advised that this is under NDA, colleagues. So the name Amcor is not to be propagated outside. They're not an official reference as of yet. So keep that in mind when I'm going through these slides. So the Amcor is a great example where we had the journey with the customer, where we initially had a very technical approach to it, focused on a Fortinet POC, which did not meet the customer's requirements. And what we were luckily to keep on board, the customer was very unsatisfied at that moment. Luckily, we were able to keep on board and start putting this in a different direction. And at that point, some of us got involved from the central organization, and we helped our team to look at this from a business perspective, which the customer ended up liking very much on how to move forward on this. So we explained the purpose of the business objects and what the workshop around it would be, and we built a 3-year roadmap with the Amcor team. So we had quite a few intensive discussions with them around this, and we started focusing, and it's maybe a bit small, but on the zero trust network access and the accelerate mergers and acquisitions and third-party access. So this customer was basically just wanting to replace their Ivanti environment and wanting to do that in a SSE type of way. And we needed to help them determine what the key success factors were, provide them recommendation, and then we proceeded to contract negotiations and signatures as well. So when we were having these conversations, and I'm going to quickly go through this, when we were having the conversations with the customer, it was already very clear that this would be a comparison between Netscope and Palo Alto. Fortinet was basically out of the game already from a technical point of view, and Zscaler just lacked having enough, how do you say it? Enough points to be considered. So because of the way the customer was answering the question, normally what we see, it's either platform based, so Palo Alto or Fortinet, or it's more best of breed, Netscope versus Zscaler. The way the customer was answering the questions, we actually saw that Netscope and Palo Alto were the ones that were on top of their minds as well. So what we started doing, and again, you'll have these slides as reference later down the line as well. We started with a technical comparison after we'd done the business objective. So we went through what we believed was the most important. Again, this is not a battle card type of approach. This is all about how we see it and what we think is best for their organization. So this is focused on their approach. So logging seams integration, obviously we all know that Palo Alto does very well, but the focus here was around the Rapid7. They had Rapid7, and Palo Alto does not natively integrate with this. So this was a big plus for Netscope instead of for Palo Alto, which normally you would say the other way around. So we looked at this from all perspectives, including the TCO at the bottom as well. And this was basically our summary slide for the customer to say, hey, Netscope is for you better than Palo Alto. So we recommended Netscope for this. And we went into quite a lot of detail. Again, also based on time, I won't go through all of these approaches, but as you can see, there's a lot of small, subtle differences that we can put into, we used pluses and minuses here. I think we'll probably move forward into like a 1 to 5 type of approach in the future more. But basically, we looked at all the different things, like how are the data centers set up? Well, we believe that having their own infrastructure instead of relying on Google is a better way of going about this if the network environment is strong enough. So we added 2 pluses to Netscope, but the Palo Alto one is perfectly fine as well. The China, how it's being dealt from a management perspective and how it's dealt from a data plane perspective, we like Netscope in this particular case better than how we like Palo Alto. So we used it in that way. Also, when it comes to other things that are very important, like the enterprise browser, so I underlined what the most important topic was for our customers. Palo Alto is a very good enterprise browser, while Netscope is just in beta, for example. So they're not as good there. So we started having these conversations. And again, we spent 1.5 hours with the customer going through this in detail. And inside of the slides that you'll, well, I guess you might, if you're getting this in a PowerPoint presentation format at least, you'll start seeing the background information around this as well. So we've done this very open and transparent, and the customer was seeing exactly how we rated them. And if they didn't agree, they could have changed pluses and minuses. But during the workshop, we were never, they were aware this was subjective, but we were never challenged on how we saw things, and they were really listening to us on how to drive this. So again, the integration with Rapid7 was one of their key topics, and Palo Alto simply does not have that at that time, at least. So this was one of the reasons why the customer decided to work with that. And then we also looked at more the soft skill side of it, so the vendor support and the ease of work with the customer as well. We spent quite a lot of time how, from a service management perspective, you still had direct conversations with the Netscope teams and the Palo Alto teams from this world, and how that differentiates in our experience working with them. And again, we felt that for Amcor, Netscope would be better. And we're not doing this from an objective point of view. We're really driving this from how we see that we should be driving this. And I think that's what the customer is looking for. They're looking for thought leadership and a proactive mindset rather than a set of variables that changes every day depending on who you ask and how fast these vendors are updating. And so once we've done those technical workshops, we also showed them roughly what it would cost. So we used other deals to provide a price per user per month, what the managed service cost would be on top of it, and what your total TCO would be. So we showed them Netscope was a little bit cheaper in this case than Palo Alto, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case all the time. So we took away the numbers here just so that you don't think that this is a given. So we showed this to the customer based on their environment, which is 14,000 users, 1,000 of them in China, 220 sites, another 15 in China, and then 110 applications was the aim, but we know it was much more, but we showed them and we focused on just the ZTNA functionality as well. So by doing this, we gave the customer an end-to-end conversation from a business perspective, from a technical perspective. We took the people and process side on this into consideration as well. And we gave our subjective and leading view on what we believe was the right partner. And we ended up on Netscope, and the customer said, "Thank you very much. This was great. How can we start implementing this?" And that's exactly what happened. We're currently implementing this for our customers, for Amcor, sorry, and we're rolling out ZTNA as we speak together with Netscope to drive this for the customer. And we believe that this will be a step up towards more SASE and SSE related topics with Netscope for this customer. So there's a lot of upsell opportunity here as well. Customer has acquired in the meanwhile another company of, I believe, 28,000 users. So this will be a massive increase into, first of all, this purely this functionality, but also in the future on any SSE functionalities that we will bring up as well. Cool. And that was the first part that we were planning to show you today. So what we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute break to refresh a little bit, to let this sink in as well. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat. After this part, I'll have more time also helping John, Zoe, and Dan to answer these questions. So feel free to put them in, and we will reconvene in 5 minutes, which is at X48. So if everyone can be back at X48, that would be great. Thank you for your attention so far, and looking forward to the rest of the meeting with all of you. Thank you.
Okay. Everyone is back.
John, before we start, can I quickly do a shout that I saw in the chat around what Dirk Lane is saying, around the fact that this is focused on the SD1 part of this as well. So absolutely, Dirk is 100% right. And when we initially did the business objectives, it was very SSE focused initially. We're using this mindset now to have this conversation also with much more of an SD1 mindset in mind. So there's a specific customer, I cannot mention the name here right now, where all of these business objectives are going to be focused more towards the networking side, because we know it's going to come from a networking perspective. So we're going to adapt them specifically there as well. And while we do that, we will use that to be more standardized on the SD1 side of it also. However, the majority of the value that it brings from a business perspective is that we're seeing that at a security side at the moment. So Dirk, if you would like to help us define that so that we have more benefits on the SD1 side, that would be greatly appreciated, and we can definitely do that as well. So thank you for that shout out. And yeah, again, it's just about the mindset. We can form this in any direction, but you're absolutely right. We need to focus more on the SD1 side as well. Correct.
So let's warm up with a question. If you have ever read the MSA service description, it's published both on OCD SharePoint as well as on Expresso. Please raise your hand. Use the raise hand function in Teams. So we have around 17 out of 119, 20, 21. Okay, that's good. I was expecting much less, but this is out of 100 something, so less than 15%, yeah? Okay, so because we know you are always in the roller coaster, we have dedicated part of this training to tell you what documents are available, what is covered in each of them, and how the different documents link to each other. We will spend time to open some of the main documents together and know what is written in them. You can now put your hands down. Thank you. Let's see together what product collaterals exist and how are they organized. First thing to know, most of the product collaterals are vendor agnostic, which means it is the same document across all vendors. Those documents are the service overview, the customer data sheet, which is a two-page PDF file that you can hand to your customers. Customer presentation is vendor agnostic. Service description is vendor agnostic. Scope and commercial term. Operational environment, which is a simple spreadsheet which captures the details of what the customer have exactly bought, and the pricing calculator. You will be thinking, how can the service description be vendor independent while we know that the Netscope solution is not the same as Palo, nor Zscaler, nor Fortinet? This is where the vendor-specific collaterals come into the picture. And to answer the question around the service description, the vendor exhibit is an extension, is an amendment, an exhibit to the service description, which covers each vendor specificities. So if you are signing an MSA deal with Zscaler, you will use the service description plus the Zscaler vendor exhibit. If you are signing an MSA deal with Netscope, you will make the customer sign the same service description, but you will attach to it the Netscope exhibit and so on. This is not the only vendor-specific collateral. The change catalog is vendor-specific as well. The sample reports we have a sample report per vendor. We use the same structure across all sample reports, yet the content and any screenshots which is taken are related to the specific vendor. Those sample reports are sanitized from any customer data, so you can share them with customers after converting them to PDF. Statement of work templates, and finally, the list of supported SKUs for each vendor is vendor specific, as you can imagine. In other words, which vendor SKUs can we support as part of MSA? We will go right away and explore the service description, vendor exhibit, and operational environment. But yeah, just to cover, what are we going to see in the first document, the service description? The unique value that we bring in the service is what we call the security posture management. In other words, it is not how quickly perform changes, how well we do incidents. It is how we help customers to maintain a secure posture over the lifetime of the service. And you will see as part of this security posture management, there are 4 modules. Remember those 4 names because we will be coming across them over and over. The threat policy management, CASB policy management, DLP policy management, and user experience management. In the service description as well, you will see how we interface and interact with the customer, the self-service access, as well as the co-management access. And they are both, the customer journey happens around the OCD Global Portal. The other components, reporting, also Orange Cyber Defense Threat Intelligence, what do we do there, change enablement, service request management, and so forth. As I said, we will start first by going through 3 documents: service description, vendor exhibit, and operational environment. All the 3 are part of the contractual documents that customers have to sign. Then we'll show us how the change catalog looks like and what information to expect in them, as well as the different sample reports and how they look like. Rob will tell us how to customize the statement of work template and what information you should ideally include in such document. When we
John?
Yep.
Quick question that I'm getting into the chat and might be relevant to where you are right now is they're asking why is the service description version in Espresso OCD branded and not OB branded? And there's a follow-up saying that there's a lot of feedback from our OB colleagues that it's always OCD branded. Can we do this from a One Orange perspective, or can we do this in an OB branded way as well? What's your feedback on that?
It all depends, So the service description is provided in a Word format. So, and we have seen this in some OB opportunities where the content is taken and it's put in customer, the structure that we normally use with the customer. So there's nothing that prevents us from using the One Orange branding. If it is a pure it's up to you. You have the choice basically. Okay, so then if you can put in the chat the link for the microsite. So where to find the different collaterals? The microsite is your one-stop shop. And apologies, this is not everyone at OB have access to that. I try to at least keep the main documents, the main content, the main information on Expresso as well. But this is the primary source. So whenever you are working on an opportunity for MSA, please involve your Orange Cyber Defense counterpart, either on the pre-sales or the sales side. This is how it looks. The microsite contains the most up-to-date product collaterals, and it points back to every document, presentation, training that have ever been created for MSA. To navigate the microsite, the upper part represents the 4 sections of the microsite: pre-sales, offering, contract, and service activation. Basically, the active section is highlighted with this location icon. The current section that you are in will be highlighted with this mark as I mentioned. In each section, you will find shortcuts that would allow you to jump to the content you are looking for quickly. The actual content will be shown in the content pane. Basically, this is a long page, so don't forget to scroll down, please. And on the right side, you will find the latest news. Here you will find the latest blogs and announcements. Yeah. So let's do a quick walkthrough just to see how we can navigate the microsite. So this is how it looks like. As I said, 4 sections, shortcuts for each section. So here in the opening page, yeah, the unique selling points, the 4 use cases, which we will see in the service description shortly, the main service components, and what is included in each of the 3 service levels. If we go to the offering section of the microsite, and maybe let's jump into the service description shortcut. So this is where you can get the latest version of the service description. And as we said, this is vendor agnostic, which means it's the same document across all vendors. And below it are the vendor exhibits for Netscope, Palo, and Zscaler. If I slightly scroll down, this is the pricing section. It explains what you need to keep in mind while sizing any opportunity. The pricing calculator can be accessed by clicking here on this link. So you can download, please always download the latest version of the pricing tool, and we will be having a pricing exercise later on in the training today. If you have access to that, please take a moment to download a copy because we will be playing with it together. There is a detailed guide on how to use the calculator. And if you need any special approval, discounts, any special pricing, there's a process that needs to be followed here, which is put by the OCD governance committee. Supported SKUs for the different vendors can be downloaded from those links as well. If I go to the contract section, you will find here in this table the contractual documents, which needs to be signed by the customer. So yeah, after the delivery agreement, the general terms and condition, the statement of work, and with a template per vendor, which needs to be customized. So this is not a ready document. It has to, you need to put your inputs in it. The service description, the vendor exhibit, scope and commercial terms, and the operational environment. So in the coming few minutes, we will go through three of those documents. Then we'll take a short break and we will cover a couple of others. So,
John?
Yes, Rob.
Another question. Do we have a customer proposal boilerplate in addition to the service description available so that they can use that to position the proposal?
No, it's we only have a service description and the statement of work. Yeah. So again, yeah, as we will see, the service description is one of the main contractual documents. It covers everything which is related to the service. It does not cover the vendors. It does not cover the technology. If you would like to amend your proposal with certain more details around the vendor solutions, I would suggest you get the most up-to-date information directly from the vendor on that. So the service description is vendor agnostic, as I mentioned. It contains the service levels packaging. It contains a description for each service component. This is not the normal 5 pages you will normally see at Orange Business. This is a 20-something page document explaining all the details of the service. So this is why we don't normally need a boilerplate. It contains as well the service SLAs and exclusions. And keep in mind, these are service SLAs. So again, if you are looking for vendor SLAs, you need to check the vendor exhibit. RACI matrices, customer obligation, very important that this is clear in your mind and you communicate clearly to customers. Service activation, deactivation, what do we do in case of overusage, and definition of terms. So what I will do, I'll do a guided tour again, yeah, because I know that only 15% were able to go through the service description, and we will not read through the 20-30 page through, but I did pre-exercise. I did color code parts of the service description. So anything which is in yellow, this is an important information that you should be aware of as a pre-sales. Anything highlighted in green, this is something that needs to be captured during pre-sales or build. Anything which is in this blue color, it's a deliverable during run. So yeah, a couple of things to highlight. Number one, this is a proactive value-added managed service around SSE and SASE. It helps customer increase visibility, control, and enables customers to achieve more effective risk management and enhance governance. Talking about SD-WAN, by default, we rely on Orange Business to provide the SD-WAN in some opportunities, which are mostly what we call large national accounts, which Orange Business is not interested in. We may be able to manage the SD-WAN following a specific study for each and every opportunity. So this is not supported by default. If you have an opportunity which OB is not working on, and we would like to provide SD-WAN for it, highlighted early in the pre-sales phase. The 4 use cases: the secure internet access, private access, cloud access, and the user experience management. And this is the first highlight for the green. This is something that the vendor exhibit. You as pre-sales needs to know exactly what's written in it. And we will go through one example today, because the service description is written in a generic way. Some vendors may support or not support certain things that we are able to do within the service description. So this is mentioned in the vendor exhibit, and definitely in pre-sales we need to be aware of that. So the 3 service levels: core, standard, premium. I'll highlight few things just for you to be aware. Maybe let's take them from bottom up. SD-WAN, it's optional and it needs to follow a special study. Co-management access, so this is the ability of customers to perform changes on their own. This is optional in all service levels. Security posture management, and if you remember, this is the real value that we bring to customers. In the core service level, we do not provide any security posture management, and this is primarily put there for customers who are not interested in the extra value that we are able to bring, but they are more focused on the price. So here, but my recommendation is to position at least the standard service level for all customers, because this is what differentiates us in the market. So certain deliverables that gets delivered as part of the security posture management, by default, the threat policy management is included by default whenever a customer subscribes to the standard service level, and a couple of user experience management and CASB policy management are optional. DLP policy management can only be subscribed if the customer is at the premium level. Trends, analysis, and recommendations. So this is one of the unique things that we provide to customers. We give them this visibility, and we will look into it both in the service description and when we discuss the sample reports. This only kicks in whenever we provide security posture management, as you can imagine. Change enablement. So this is included in all service levels. So we have customer has to subscribe to this. This is change management basically. Orange Cyber Defense Threat Intelligence is included in all service levels. So the following section is a description. What does each of those service components really mean? And some of them we will go through, some of them we will just skip. So self-service access. This is done. Customer need to appoint a customer administrator on their side who will interface with us. So this means that we do not provide end user support. If the customer expects that each and every user in their organization will open tickets to Orange, that's the wrong expectation. Okay, customer can nominate up to 5 customer administrators. The names of those administrators are captured in the build phase. So this is done and documented in what we call the operational handbook. The self-service access provided restricted read-only access. So the customer is not able to perform changes here. If they would like to perform any modifications, you need to subscribe to the option, the co-management access option we just discussed. Incident management is pretty standard. Problem management, pretty standard. Service request management is primarily for requests for access, requests for information, requests for incident reports. So if any of those, the customer does not need to open an incident or a change, they just need to open a service request. Service configuration management. So this is basically we take snapshots, backups of the configuration as the vendor allows us, and in accordance with the vendor exhibit. So again, yeah, why the vendor exhibit here? The vendor exhibit we will check. You will be surprised that we can take some backups, but we cannot restore them. So where is this written? It is written in the vendor exhibit. So release management. This is an interesting part that you need to be aware of. In an SSE solution, which is primarily cloud-based, there are multiple types of service assets. There are assets which are managed by the cloud, by the vendor. There are assets which are under Orange Cyber Defense responsibility. There are assets which are under the customer responsibility. So we have 5 types of service assets. Cloud environment. So this is primarily the cloud control plane and the management plane of the different vendors. This is primarily any releases to the cloud environment is primarily driven by the vendor in terms of content and scheduling. Most of the time we cannot influence that, but sometimes we can influence, and this depends on the vendor. And guess what? Where are we going to find this detail? In the vendor exhibit. Our role is to advise the customer about upcoming releases and potential impact prior to a release rollout. The second type of service asset is appliances updated by the vendor. So sometimes there are either physical or virtual appliances. Most of the time they are virtual, which whenever there is a new release, it is pushed directly by the vendor without any intervention from Orange Cyber Defense nor the customer. So the content and scheduling of those virtual or physical appliances within this category are basically driven by the vendor. Our role is to advise the customer of upcoming releases so that they are aware. The appliances updated by Orange Cyber Defense. So these are the virtual or physical appliances which we are responsible to do release management for. What you need to keep in mind that the service includes up to 2 service releases per year for each appliance at no extra cost. If the customer would like, I don't know, a third or any further releases for any reason, basically the extra releases will be deducted from the change enablement quota, and which I will explain shortly. And the endpoint client, so this is the endpoint that gets the piece of software that gets installed on the mobile device, on the laptop. So this will be performed automatically whenever possible via the vendor management platform. However, some customers would say, I would like to push that through my own software distribution platform. So this is possible. The preferred approach by the customer on how to update the endpoint will be captured during the service activation and will be documented in the operational handbook. So there is a section in the handbook that says, yeah, how do you prefer the endpoint client updates to happen? And last but not least, the last service asset are content updates. So these are updates which comes either from the vendor, a new antivirus signature, a new URL categorization, or it comes from Orange Cyber Defense in the form of threat intelligence updates, for example. In both cases, these are automatically pushed in the customer tenant. Okay, keep this in mind, and when we open the vendor exhibit, we will see the same 5 assets and a mapping between the vendor assets and how they call it and where do they fall in each of those categories, so that the customer is aware which parts are the responsibility of the vendor, which parts are the responsibility of Orange Cyber Defense. Of course, it goes without saying, but yeah, this is a contractual document, so we had to mention it. The replacement of service assets which are end of support is not covered within the service. So if a customer has an appliance, a virtual appliance, which I don't know, that has been there for years and they were supposed to do an update for it, we are not able to support those end of support devices. Remember, customer has 2 releases per year, which can help to keep things up to date. If there is any replacement of a hardware, for example, which requires a quote or something like this, again, replacing of service after going end of service requires to be quoted separately. It is not covered by default. Monitoring and event management. I'll highlight one point here, yeah, that within the service, any security events, alerts, or logs that gets generated out of the platform will not be tracked, analyzed, or acted upon, which means if a customer expects us, if certain event happen, if a certain alert get raised, or if a certain user is trying to access a certain website, that we will call them for each and every request. This is not happening. If a customer wants this level, they need to subscribe to a service like managed threat detection, for example, to be able to do that. So change enablement or change management. Customer will is supposed to submit and monitor change requests on the self-service portal. So the customer administrator basically is the one who have access to that. Orange Cyber Defense will provide a change catalog, which then will go through it. It includes a list of all available changes. Changes which are not part of the change catalog needs and deemed complex, they may require separate code and may need to be handled in a project mode. You will see in the change catalog that changes are categorized as either standard or normal. So standard changes are pre-approved. They do not require CAB approval. All other changes require CAB approval. The list of customer CAB approvers will be defined during the service activation and will be documented in the operational handbook. This is a part which is a bit different, especially for our colleagues at OB. The service includes an agreed number of hours, a quota, which the customer can use for performing changes. So it is not a number of changes, it is number of hours of performing changes. If a customer is requesting emergency changes, each hour spent when handling emergency changes is counted double the hours. So if we have to make an emergency change which took us 45 minutes, this will be counted as 1.5 hours. The first 3 months of the service, this is where we use a fair usage policy. And after this period, the time spent on changes will be tracked on a 3 months rolling average. If the customer exceeds those the change hours time bank, we can go and bill them back for the difference. Any change performed by the customer administrator through the co-management access, so they perform changes on their own, are not deducted from the change quota, which is expected. Vulnerability management, so it depends on the level. So if the customer is subscribed to core level, we track vendor publications and security advisors, and we notify customer if there is a critical vulnerability. Critical vulnerability means it's CVSS 9 or above. If a customer is subscribed to the standard or premium service level, and this is where the security posture management kicks in, we do the same, but on top of it, we keep we assess the risk of the vulnerabilities. We look into, we provide a prioritized remediation list as well for customers. Threat intelligence of Orange Cyber Defense. So I'll explain this quickly for those of you who have not attended the sales session. So the challenge with threat intelligence is it is usually a probability. So you get certain information about URLs and IP addresses that, 50% they are malicious, 60% they are malicious. And the challenge was always what is the threshold that we start blocking those threats. So we, at Orange Cyber Defense, we have built a proprietary platform, which takes on one side the 30%, 50%, 60% intelligence and validates them one by one and provides on the other side a feed which is 100% verified. So which we can surely take and inject into the vendor platforms. So this is what the Orange Cyber Defense Threat Intelligence does. It provides a second layer of prevention and protection for customers. So in case, and we always put it as a second layer after the vendor default rules. So let's say, I don't know, the vendor blocks certain URLs and files. Yeah, we put those in, and then we put our OCD threat intel rules as a safety net. Ideally, if everything works perfectly, nothing should hit this rule, but in reality, yeah, there are things that gets hit at this rule, and we show them to the customer during the monthly security governance meeting, which I will explain shortly. In terms of reporting, at the core level, we provide a monthly report which covers application reports, usage report, threats, and service reports, and they are colored in this color because they are a deliverable during the run. If the customer is in the standard service level, on top of those, we add the service trends, and we highlight any upcoming planned maintenance notifications. If the customer is at the premium level, we allow them to have some custom reports as well. And this requires, in the build phase, that we run a workshop with the customer to identify if they have any reporting requirements that we need to take into consideration. Of course, during those workshops, as an outcome, we study and we tell the customer what's possible and what's not possible. On a monthly basis, we discuss the generated reports with the customer during the monthly service review meetings. And this is important, yeah. In the vendor exhibit, check the reporting section, because some vendors would retain logs for, I don't know, a week or something like this, which does not allow us by default to generate those monthly reports. So we will cover this later. There are a prerequisite subscriptions that needs to be subscribed in certain cases with some vendors so that we are able to provide the reporting. In the pre-sales phase, make sure that you are aware of those and taking them into account. Security posture management, this is basically the customer gets appointed a security advisor, and the security advisor is basically having regular conversations with the customer to understand their business ecosystem, as well as to drive the business objectives approach throughout the run phase. So if a customer starts and saying, okay, I'll start by securing internet access, then move towards the zero trust and enhance visibility, the person who will help work with the customer this journey is the security advisor. Okay. Quarterly security review. So on a quarterly basis, we do an audit to the configuration, and we provide recommendation to the customer, and then we'll explain. We'll show that in. I hope we will get the time that he will show it in the sample reports. Threat policy management. So these are the deliverables that gets delivered to the customer on a monthly, on a quarterly, and on an annual basis. CASB policy management, again, this provides visibility for cloud usage for the customer and where their data is, where their people are storing the data and stuff like this. Again, here what is provided on a quarterly basis. DLP policy management, if the customer has subscribed to DLP policies, these are the deliverables that we provide. User experience management, this provides visibility on end-to-end digital experience for the customer users. It measures network performance, latency, packet loss, application response time, and it goes further and checks, because it's embedded in the client, it checks the health of the endpoint as well in terms of CPU usage, internet connectivity, quality, and so forth. And again, what is provided on a quarterly basis to those customers. Co-management access. So co-management access provides authorized customer administrators with the ability to perform, this is a keyword, restricted configuration modifications to the service. So this is not allowing each and every change for the customer to perform. Changes that are available through the co-management are defined in the change catalog. So then we'll show us that. And finally, the SD-WAN part. yeah, again, it has to follow a special study for each and every customer. SLAs. So these are service SLAs. We have a incident SLAs, incident management SLAs. Let me scroll here. Here you go. So this is service response and resolution time. So provide two things: initial response, SLA for updates, and SLA for resolution time. In the core service level, there is no SLA for resolution time. It only kicks in the standard and premium with a bit of higher commitment on the premium service level. Okay. Yep. Keep in mind, and this is as pre-sales, any priority one, you need to make it clear to customers, any priority one or two incident must be accompanied by a phone call. So if a customer opens a priority one on a Saturday and disappears, yeah, we have the right to deprioritize this for sure. Okay, so customer have to call us and explain, yeah, and bring our attention to it so that we are able to give it the right priority. For change enablement, there is a change implementation SLA. Again, standard premium is slightly better than the core. And if in case the customer opens an emergency change, it must be accompanied by a telephone call. And the SLA will only start after the CAB or ECAB of the customer have granted the approval for the emergency change. Service request management. So those are the non-incident, non-changes. Request for information, for example, we only have an SLA to acknowledge those. Report intervals, and basically we commit to generate the monthly reports by the 10th of each month. And if there is an incident report for a P1, we basically have 10 days. Exclusions. SLA will not apply in those cases. Change implementation, SLA will not apply for scheduled changes. So if a customer comes and say, I would like to implement this change next week, yeah, definitely we are not, in this case, we will not complete it in the SLA timeframes that we have. If a customer is sending a change which is larger than 10 items to be modified, yeah, the SLA will not apply. So sometimes we have seen that the customer opens a huge change and expect it to be completed in the same time frame. Incident management, if we need to involve the vendor, the SLAs will not apply. Incidents caused by changes performed by the customer are excluded from the SLA as well. RACI matrices, I'll just highlight a few things. End user support, endpoint troubleshooting and remediation is customer responsibility in incident management. Initial configuration of any replaced device. So in case we need to replace an appliance, a physical appliance, and the customer, the initial configuration, we expect the customer to do that. Troubleshooting, isolation, and resolving of any virtual environment incidents is customer responsibility. So what does this mean? Sometimes we need to host a virtual appliance in the customer environment. The customer is responsible to provide the virtual environment as well as to troubleshoot and isolate any problems that we see. Release management, yeah, deploying the virtual appliances. So if initially if we need to deploy a virtual appliance in the customer virtual environment, it is the customer responsibility to do it. We will of course give them instructions, but we will not log into their AWS Azure to put the virtual appliance there. Any compatibility checks for endpoint client is customer responsibility. So if the endpoint conflicts with one of the applications, the agents that are running on their laptop, it is their responsibility to do this assessment. And during the deployment, this is what we normally recommend. And during rollout, we recommend to a pilot group to do this in a phased approach. As we mentioned here, reviewing security logs, events, and alerts are not part of the service. We are happy to forward those logs to the customer in case needed. Analyzing service trends is only available in reporting in the standard and premium. I'll jump maybe, let's customer obligations. So what is the customer expected to do? Number one, provide, so go through the list, but I'll just highlight the things that you as pre-sales and build teams needs to be aware of. Provide written authorization to the vendor so that Orange Cyber Defense can act on their behalf. And this is specifically true if we are only providing a managed service and the customer have bought their subscriptions directly from the vendor, for example. Provide and maintain and manage any virtual environment used to host virtual appliances. So it's customer responsibility, and deploying those virtual appliances in this environment is customer responsibility as well. Deploying the endpoint client of the vendor on the user's devices is we expect the customer to do that, and of course to provide us with the required credentials. As a general theme, so if, for example, the customer would like us to deploy the virtual appliances in their virtual environment, we can do that, but it's not part of the standard service. It has to be scoped and coded on top of the managed service. I'll just, for the sake of time, and then the definitions. I think are you still awake? Raise your hand, if you are. Okay, so if you are still awake. So, thank you. Okay, so let's check, the vendor exhibit. And as I mentioned, there is a vendor exhibit per vendor. You can identify which vendor is this for from two places, either the file name or the title on the document. And basically, the vendor exhibit, which is also as well known as Exhibit A, is a complementary document to the service description. It covers everything which is vendor specific. So vendor product names, the mapping to the use cases, any prerequisites and limitation, vendor SLA, vendor EOLA, EOSA, acceptable use policy, and the forth. So this is again, I'll use the same color code. This is a net scope. This is customer owned subscriptions. So we assume, the customer will own the subscriptions in such a case. We refer in the service description and the vendor exhibit to the operational environment. So this is where we say, this is what you have bought, Mr. Customer. The mapping between the use cases and the vendor product names is mentioned in this table. So the service description was vendor agnostic. We do not talk about anything related to the vendor. In this document, this is where we have the mapping. So we say the secure web gateway in the Netscope, they call it like this. The zero trust network access, they call it either Netscope private access or Netscope one private access, and so forth. Here you will see some of the sections which are mirroring what it's in the service description. So in the service description, we had a section for incident management. In the vendor exhibit here, we highlight that in order for us to perform incident management, there's a prerequisite, which pre-sales needs to be aware of, that at least at the minimum, a premium support level needs to be subscribed as part of the vendor subscriptions. Service configuration management, in the case of Netscope here, it is important to note that re-importing of the data is not possible. So we can take backups, but we cannot re-import. Don't tell me why, but this is a limitation that has to be clear. Release management, so back to the 5 service assets, the cloud environment. So we say here, it is what falls under this is the Netscope infrastructure, the management plane, and the data plane in the different locations. The appliances updated by the vendor, none. Appliances updated by Orange Cyber Defense, those are virtual appliances. If the customer has any of them, it is Orange Cyber Defense responsibility to update. And for Netscope, Orange Cyber Defense cannot influence the scheduling of the releases under the service assets, under the cloud environment service asset. So with Palo Alto, for example, and I don't know if this is still true or not, we were able to influence when the update will happen for each specific customer. Netscope, we cannot do that. And for the endpoint client, we recommend the golden release to be automatically rolled out. Monitoring and event management, this is what we can monitor with Netscope. Reporting. Okay, so this is an important point. You remember there was I showed you in the service description that there might be certain prerequisites. So in the case of Netscope, it's a prerequisite for us to be able to provide the reporting promise that we have in the service description, that we have an extended data retention for Netscope Advanced Analytics. By default, Netscope keeps 7 days of analytics or data, log data, not log data, graphs and stuff like this. Whenever we work with Netscope, we need to subscribe to either the 3, 6, or the 13 months when we buy the subscription from Netscope. Netscope as well, we have recently started supporting their the user experience management use case with them. They have a limitation. They only provide 48 hours of data, and thus the reporting and trends analysis will not be available through the service. RBAC are in place. SLAs, yeah, I'll cover this one and maybe we jump. Because this vendor exhibit is assuming the customer will own the subscriptions, so we say here that the most applicable version of the SLA can be accessed and downloaded from the vendor website, and we provide the link. We have included in one of the annexes here a copy of the SLAs, but it's solely for informational purposes. If there are any differences, the one on the website is the one that would apply. Okay. The same would go for the end user licensing agreement. Last document to go through, it's a vendor agnostic document, which is a simple, what we call the operational environment. Again, this is one of, you would find this in the contractual documents. Operational environment, it's a simple spreadsheet, basically documenting what the customer have bought. So it looks like this, and yeah, it's basically saying what the customer have bought. What vendor are we working with? Who owns the vendor subscriptions, customer or Orange Cyber Defense? How many users are part of the service? How many sites? How many publishers, branch connectors? And how many hours are included per month in the change bank? SDM location, so the service delivery manager, the core service level, we will come to this point later. Service level, core standard premium, 24/7 or 9/5 service, the time zone, and the start date of the service and the end date. We include as well here what modules are we going to support as part of the service in the SSE solution. And here, any service options that the customer has subscribed to the 4 modules that we have talked about in the security posture management. Did the customer subscribe to co-management, yes or no? And is SD-WAN part of the solution or not? So if it is no, that's good. If it is yes, yeah, it's subject to prior study and approval of Orange Cyber Defense. Finally, if a customer is coming by their own tenant, so they have bought a tenant 1 year back, and now they would like to that we provide a managed service on top, they need to provide us with the tenant URL in here. And again, this is part of the contractual document, one of the documents that the customer sign to make it clear, yeah, this is our understanding of what we are selling to you, Mr. Customer. Well done, everyone. Yeah. So now we have a 5 minutes break. Let's be back on X41, please.
So hello everyone, I hope you had a good break, a good morning or afternoon from wherever you are from. As said earlier, I'm Dan, I'm the Managed Secure Access Tech Lead, and I am just going to go through some more documents with you, just a quick overview, just so you can see them. Okay, so the first one we're going to go through is the change catalog. It's a list of all the possible changes that could be made within our vendors. So if I just bring this over, so you should all be able to see this. This is the Netscope change catalog. We have defined standard.
Can you zoom in?
Normal.
Can you zoom in, please? Then.
Yep. Is that better? Yep. Okay, so we.
All good then.
Brilliant. So we have our standard, normal, emergency, and co-managed changes. So as mentioned earlier, we do offer co-management in our MSA service. So this allows customers who have sort of the technical expertise to carry out basic changes themselves. These are changes that would usually they would want to happen in sort of 5 minutes rather than within our SLAs. Okay, so as you can see, we have crosses and ticks for what is covered under each one. And under co-management, we have yes with an asterisk. So there's caveats to this. There's certain parts that they could change, and other parts that they wouldn't be able to. So the idea behind this is to, as I said, to make them quick, simple changes, maybe SSL bypass a site or allow a application, but without changing the functionality and the logic of all the rules. It also stops the customer breaking the tenant and causing an outage. So for them, we ask them to obviously put in a change so we can review it before implementing that. This document itself isn't set in stone. We can have discussions with the customer. So if they would like to do some of these co-management changes that are crosses or want a bit more access to the ones with the asterisks, then we can allow that with a discussion with the customer. Obviously, if the customer breaks the solution, then our SLA isn't applicable there, and it'll be best efforts to help fix that. So they do have options to have that discussion with us. Okay, so as you can see, all the little things are for each section is set out so the customer can see exactly what they can't do and what kind of change to raise with us. One thing to note about emergency, this isn't time related to the change itself. Even though the SLA is shorter, this is for P1s and P2s in the customer environment that need to be changed as soon as possible. So we have these for each of the functionalities. So the secure web gateway for secure internet access, CASB for the secure cloud access, and NPA for the private access side of it. So they're all split out by functionality at the bottom. And we also have our complex changes. So complex changes are usually changes that aren't inside the scope of the project, but we can help facilitate through a project. So this is where we're really changing the design of the solution. So that's what sort of fits in there. So creating a new steering profile, for instance, would mean that we're changing the way we're steering all the traffic to Netscope. So we would need a project to ensure that we don't mess up any of the existing solution.
And to add to that, Dan, part of this is also, so the amount of changes, some X's and yeses prevent certain things that we do on a quarterly or yearly basis. It's basically focusing on making sure that nothing is disrupted from a business continuity point of view. But basically the customer with already the standard approach can do 99% of the daily changes themselves already directly, and we don't need to be involved. So just to add that to what Dan was saying.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. We also obviously have our reporting. These are pretty extensive reports. The monthly one is about 40 pages long in itself, and this is what a part of the security advisor role within the service does, basically. So if we have a look at a monthly service report, as John said, these are all available on the microsite. These are sanitized, so they can be shared with customers. But I'll just give you a quick, brief overview of them now. If you'd like a more deep dive later down the line, then please let me know and I can arrange a session and we can go through it in a lot more detail. But so when we have our monthly sessions, this report is given to the customer within 10 working days of the first of the month. And then the following week, the security advisor will have a session with the customer. During that session, they would usually go through the executive summary. So an executive summary is a summary of the whole report and shows sort of the key findings and recommendations that we need to be either highlighting to the customer or working on. You can see here that we have verdicts. So we have from 1 to 5. 1 is informational. I'll just show you that down here. And well, nothing to action. 2, informational, all the way up to business critical. So during a meeting, the security advisor would go through each of these sections and give advice and have that discussion with the customer, so they become that extension of the business. Okay, so if we just looked at some of the main sections of the report, we obviously have the contractual data and the functionalities that are in scope. And then we have our licenses and subscriptions. So we take down how many licenses they have, when that's going to expire, so we can make sure that we're well on top of renewals. And we also look at the sort of numbers in the current users within the environment. So here we'll be able to see that we're getting spikes. And if we get close or go over the licensed amount of users, we can highlight that to the customer. Usually we don't cause an outage by going over, but if it's continuously over, then the vendor will come and ask them to increase their licenses and subscriptions. We also go through the software versions. So obviously the cloud environment itself, if there's been any significant updates, any vulnerabilities to the cloud would also be shown here to make the customer aware in our monthly overview, as well as all the assets, so all the virtual machines within the environment, the clients, the publishers, etc., of what versions we're seeing and whether these should be updated or not. We can see the publisher versions here. We provide a big bit on usage insights. So what we're seeing out of the tenant, top 10 applications, the top policies that we're triggering, domains, objects, etc. Do a bit on the private application side of it and cloud firewall, depending on the functionality that the customer has. And we're going to the risks. So we look at all our sort of sanctioned and unsanctioned applications, as well as the risky applications, and either putting in policies to block these applications or accept the risk and start putting in controls where we stop data going to these risky applications, that sensitive data, etc. We also have our threat insights. So looking at malicious activity, what has been blocked, where it's being blocked. So what categories are we seeing them from? The top URLs that have been detected, any malware inside that we've seen go through Netscope. Maybe if they have the cloud secure access side of things, we can actually detect any malicious data in their managed cloud applications as well. DLP, if they have the DLP functionality as well. So we look at the top users with the violations and the applications, etc. And then if the customer has premium service with us, we can also do customized reporting. So if there's a section that the customer really wants to focus on, a big one recently has been AI and the introduction of AI. We look at what AI applications are being used, where that traffic flow and that data flow is going. But this could be anything that the customer asks for. Recently, I've been working with a customer on streaming media. So we're looking at what streaming media applications are being used and starting to restrict that to enhance productivity. And on top of that, we obviously do our trend analysis over the months or over the coming year, or previous year, should I say. And then we also have our service opportunities bit. So we have all of the ticket statistics from the previous month, upcoming events and maintenance notifications, and any improvement opportunities as well. So that's what we do every month. Obviously, there's a lot of a report to go through. That's why we go through the executive summary and give the report to the customer beforehand to read through, and then ask any questions during that monthly report. Every quarter, we run a configuration audit for the customer. So we go through the whole tenant, looking from a security perspective on any open rules, anything where we're bypassing top-level domains, for example, in our SSL bypasses, as well as looking at hiding the policy as well. So if there's unused rules, users that are no longer registered with the tenant that are in rules, we look at cleaning them up. So through that, we go through these areas of review, the threat policy side of it, user experience, if they have the user experience management, same with the cloud secure access with the CASB policy, DLP, and then our best practice review as well. Again, we give this in a executive summary at the top, and then each section below for them to read through. So we do a full configuration audit. We only give the customer the top sort of 10 to 20 recommendations. So we then have time to work on them over the next 3 months. Some of them can't obviously be implemented straight away. So we work on them the next 3 months, and then we run another configuration audit to whether there's been anything changed by the customer in a co-management setting. So we run a fresh audit and then give our findings again here. So again, we do policy optimization, removing of them disabled rules, threat policy management, so looking at the SSL inspection, malware and threat protection, CASB, DLP, and then the administration side of the tenant as well. So looking at them administrators, etc. So again, we run that every 3 months and report that to the customer. And that's the sort of work the proactive work we do over the next 3 months. Many meetings talking to the customer, as well as changes raised by Orange to implement these changes. Lastly, we have our annual compliance report. So this one here is Paolo. What happens here is let's start at the top. Every year we run this compliance audit report. We identify from the customer which regulation or certification that they want us to check the tenant for. So this is within the tenant itself, and the controls within that framework that they would like us to evaluate. Okay, so as you can see on the right, these are the controls that were asked for to install, maintain network security controls, and we put our compliance status, whether we're fully, partially, and any recommendation that is needed to bring that to a compliant status. Here would also provide evidence if they need it for a review or an audit, and we then basically have the full compliance requirements below. So the customer can then come in here, see what we've looked at, and the reference to that requirement with our findings below. So you can see here, evidence, the compliance status, any recommendation, and our findings as well. So that's every year, sorry, not every month, that would take too long. Every year, but yes, we'll only do certain controls within a framework itself. Obviously, you can imagine if we took every framework or every control in a framework, that will be our job for the next year to to assess that. And then by the time we've done it, it's old data and probably need to redo it again. So we take the critical bits from that framework that the customer would like us to look at. So that's the 3 reports as a quick overview. Again, if you would like any more information or a deep dive into these and how a security advisor would go about filling these in, please let me know and I can arrange a session to go through that. I will now pass back over to Rob and we'll go through the next part.
Yep. Sharing my screen. There you go. Thank you very much, Dan. So one last document to quickly show to all of you is the statement of work. Some of you already have experience around this as well, where basically the statement of work is used in the pre-sales phase already, and then later in the deployment phase to align on existing towards proposed solution, and then a more detailed approach. Keep in mind, and this is very important because what I've seen in some of the deals is that we are focused on doing this as a standardized template, and we just work within the template. This is just a mechanism that helps you to have a template to customize as much as you need in order to facilitate what your customers are asking. So please, as from a pre-sales perspective, make sure you do your due diligence and really add as much as input in here as well, so that the handover to local PS or TIO is much easier. We are struggling with some of our deals that this wasn't done properly. So if you have any doubts on how to proceed on that, feel free to reach out to us and we'll help you with this as well. So I'll quickly show you in a second how the document looks like, but it's all about documenting the existing solution and adding what we propose on top of that as well. Information, as much information as we have about the customer environment, very useful for our PS and TIO to know about this, because they're not part of the pre-sales organization, part of the pre-sales phase, so they don't get all the detailed discussions we have with customers. So please put effort into making that happen. In and out of scope items, the project approach and methodology. So generally, what we see is a phased implementation is the main approach, but sometimes customers are looking for a big bang. It's quite risky in my opinion, but it is definitely possible. And then we have the option. The way this document is written right now is from a waterfall perspective, but we have offered multiple customers the approach to do this via an agile approach. Some of the customers are 100% diving into that. So we are capable of doing that. The waterfall version is on the micro side. If you need anything around agile, feel free to get in contact with me. We have a lot of resources made and contributed by the pre-sales community that we can share if and when you need this, but we are not officially launching that. It's just more of what we've done for certain customers that I can share for you. Timelines and milestones and prerequisites, assumptions, etc. So how this document look like? Again, this is customizable, so take the items that you need to have, make sure that you have included everything that you are familiar with the customer to ease the handover. We are providing some guide rails on what should be in there from a minimal perspective, but don't let this stop you from creating your own document and driving this in as customized perspective as possible. We provided some general prerequisites, but from experiences, I know there's some very specific topics at certain customers that you definitely want to include in here as well. So make sure that you have your pre-sales risk log and any things that are customer focused and customer demanded in here as well. Again, we'll just look at it from a general perspective. The pre-sales are the ones that are talking to the customer in these phases and can definitely tighten this up. Again, this is all about how we would set this up. We do have defined customer tasks, but make sure that you talk to your local PS or to the central TIO to get a firm quote on this and also get the specific tasks. If, for example, you're only implementing one functionality or something along those lines, make sure that you align what you're getting from PS or TIO with what's in here. This is not written in stone, so don't just copy paste it in there and expect TIO to understand what we're trying to say if it's not mapped on what they were discussing with you in an earlier case. So again, keep that in mind. We add the commercials into here as well. Oh, we add these commercials in here as well. And ideally, we want the customer to sign this before the contract so that we have a clear demarcation of what's inside the scope and what is not. That is quickly about the, and there's some things here around what the requirements are. This one is specifically for Zscaler. We have some addendums, what the requirements are around what is needed from a customer perspective, and please communicate that to the customer clearly upfront. And from my experience, also talk about things like admin rights and stuff like that, because sometimes the customers are not aware we need some access inside of their environments in order to do our operations as well. So make sure that that's discussed as well. Then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Zoe is going to yes, correct. So, oh, I think I stopped sharing. Apologies. So Zoe, I think you're here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So Zoe's gonna walk us through the delivery model, and together with her, I'll explain what the points of consideration are with working with OB as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Trying to switch the screen. Not sure it's not responding. There you go.
Wonderful, thank you. So good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. So those who don't know me, I am the head of innovation for the OCD Global SOC. So I have the overall ownership on ensuring that we've got a standardized operational model across all of our services, and was involved in building this out for the Managed Secure Access service. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to run you through the delivery model for MSA. It might be a little bit different to what you know today for sort of other services from global operations. So we do have just one standard delivery model for MSA from the global SOC, and it consists of both EU and non-EU engineers. So it's one ticketing queue, one virtual delivery team, and this really gives us the ability to leverage all skills and expertise across the global SOC. So we don't deliver solely from one country hub. So just bear that in mind. We can deliver a purely EU-centric service if the customer has specific data security controls. However, this is obviously more expensive. So when you're scoping the contract with the customer, it is important to see if you can get the understanding on whether the customer has those privacy rights, and obviously then that goes into the pricing tool and scoping it right from the beginning. So for the direct market, the customers will be expected to interact with the service through the global portal. So this includes ticket creation, updating their tickets, things like approving their changes. They can pull reports and they could do so much more from the global portal. So this is a really good thing to push for the direct market, and they should be interacting slowly with the service through that. Obviously, they've got the service desk phone number as well. So P1s, emergency changes, must be phoned through, so they can interact with the service desk there. One point to note, just to reiterate, we don't provide end user support. So we rely on customer admins that are added to the portal, that are added to our contacts, that are added to the handbook, etc., etc. This is usually a customer IT team. So they're the ones that are interfacing with us, taking the end user issues, etc., etc., putting them together and creating that ticket on the portal. We can support e-bonding with some customer ITSM tools. So that's our service now straight to the customer's ITSM. It does have to be scoped differently, and there is a landing page for this. Rob, I think you've got the link, if you can put it in the chat. But that's important to know. If the customers are talking about e-bonding, we can look into that. I do believe only a few help desk tools are in scope at the moment, but we can discuss that. Security advisor that we've mentioned already, obviously the proactive elements of the service, they support the SDM or the CSM in the service reviews. They will be based in one of the knowledge hubs. Usually this is as close to the customer as possible to create that sort of local proximity, but that's discussed during onboarding, and they're involved right from that start point. And obviously to mention the governance, we must be selling an SDM alongside the service. This is usually positioned in country to again have that proximity to the customer, but we do also have some global CSMs that exist in the global SOC. So if you don't feel that you necessarily have the right profile or right skill sets for the type of customer that you're selling MSA to, then we can look at positioning one of our global CSMs. Next slide, please. Perfect. So, sorry, 1 second. So this is a visual representation of the global SOC hubs that are involved in the delivery of the MSA service. So just as I mentioned before, not every hub delivers every technology. We have specialist expertise based in different countries, and we've got a mix of those EU and global hubs delivering level 1 sort of service desk, triage, incident resolution activity. And then obviously you've got the SOC and the security advisors that are positioned in the different hubs as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for the OB market, the delivery model is pretty much exactly the same. So same teams, EU, non-EU, same concepts, etc. However, the customer journey is what's slightly different. So we've got the OB service desk that is in front of the customer. Maybe the OB service desk is e-bonded to the customer IT service desk, and then our tools are e-bonded with the OB tools. So we must be considering that in the pre-sales phase. If you've got an OB customer in mind, then we must be prompting that discussion. We've got key contacts within the OB teams that know everything to do with e-bonding. There's a lot of moving pieces on the OB IT landscape, so we need to be having those conversations quite early on. The main other difference is that we just have 2 governance roles in the OB delivery model as well, and I'll discuss that on the next slide. Perfect. So As mentioned on the governance, we must be selling an SDM for the local OCD security services, even if OB has the CSM. So the CSM will do the governance across the whole customer estate, across the OB services, but they will interlink with the local OCD SDM, and they will be presenting the value from the security perspective. Other considerations just to put in front of you guys is around the OB COG. So in the direct market today, we usually just have an OCD handbook that gets filled out with the customer. With the OB model, obviously the COG from the OB side takes precedence. So we must be consuming all the details from the OCD handbook into that COG. This is handled during onboarding and before going live. Again, on the e-bonding part, we just need to make sure that we're having that conversation early so we can have efficient ticket handling. So we just need to discuss that quite soon. We will make sure that with the service, we will have direct troubleshooting calls with the customer. You know, we want to be as efficient as possible. We know OB wants to be, you know, you guys are the face of the service to the customer, but to be as efficient as possible and to ensure we get the technical people in front of the customer, things like troubleshooting calls, you know, will be there directly with the customer. The security advisor is also customer facing. As Dan said, or with all the reports, you know, we present this in calls with the customer. We have the service governance calls. So they're obviously interfacing as well. And I think it's been mentioned before, if you've got multiple security services, definitely consider positioning a security manager. That way we've just got a technical voice, you know, that one single voice to the customer alongside the governance, and they can interact with the security advisors who are closer to the day-to-day work. But it helps simplify who's talking to the customer about what different components. And I think that is everything. Yep. Thank you very much.
Sorry, had to open my mic. I should not be talking on mute. So just to keep in mind from a principal perspective, when we work together with OB, the mindset is a one orange approach. Already had some discussions on certain things, why it's branded in certain ways, or even accessing resources between the two organizations. But towards the customer, we're one orange, and we need to work like that. It's very important that we start engaging each other as quickly as possible. So it's very clear, the decisions made by Uke and Aliette, that any security opportunities, we need to be involved, and any SD1 opportunities, OB needs to involve. There's no exceptions to that. So involve each other as quickly as possible and move forward together from a strategic perspective, from a strategical point of view. Do the solutioning together. It's really important that we start doing that right from the start. Make sure that your central and local pre-sales teams are engaged accordingly. We have within Thomas Gouchon's team people like Richard Keerkop and Paul Nesfield that are also supporting from a central perspective. They need to be onboarded into the teams as quickly as possible as well. And from our perspective, like John, myself, Dan, Zoe as well, we will get attached to this if and where we can accordingly also. And approach this from a business outcomes approach. Really, we cannot stress enough that this is how we've been winning deals in the most consistent way. If we start with the vendor approach that we said earlier, we are not uniquely positioning ourselves while we have some unique selling points to discuss with the customer. So really drive this from a business perspective if and where you can. And if you cannot do that, let's discuss what you need to do in order to move this forward. We have a lot of experience in the last 2 years now on how to drive that. So real quickly, there's one orange approach. The contracting entity is the one in charge, but it doesn't mean they're telling what to do. So very often when it's OB running the deal, very often if OB and OCD are involved together, OB is the contracting entity towards the customer, but we are doing this in collaboration and really focus on making sure that the teams work and not go into this from a hierarchical point of view. I sometimes see it, and it's not the most successful way of doing business between us, but also towards the customer as well. Make sure that the customer operational journey is clear, like Zoe was saying, how the e-bonding set up, how the customer service desk is set up. We have standardized approaches. We do not, there's very little reason why we need to differentiate from this, but if we need to differentiate from it, we can document this and get this approved, but discuss this always with the central team. Any last important topic around this is for the Evolution platform. So for every deal with Orange Business, Evolution platform needs to be positioned. It's part of the strategic approach, and you really need to add this to the conversation as well. We have local channel managers in all of your countries, OB channel managers on the OCD side that are specifically trained to help with these topics also. So also on the OCD side and on the OB side, we have people that can help you with the Evolution platform positioning accordingly. And be aware that OB has heavily invested in Evolution platform and that it's a strategic asset and can be leveraged by both OB and OCD. Currently, we have two use cases that are actively being used together. One is the managed firewall on EVP, and the other one is SSE on EVP. So please make sure that that is added to this environment, into this conversation as well with your customers. John, can I ask you to take over the screen again and continue the story, please?
Absolutely, yeah. So we are now in the last chapter, pricing. Well done, everyone. I'll try to finish in 15 minutes, yeah. Let's try. So do you see any similarity between a car dealership and Orange Cyber Defense? So apart from the fact that both of them sell cool stuff, at least for me, Orange Cyber Defense sometimes sell ready-made products to others exactly like a car dealership. But as we explained at the beginning, and as we have been saying all the way, selling technology or selling cars isn't our real differentiator. This is not what make us grow or achieve the profitability potentials we are after. Before we start doing the pricing, I'll first dig in the 4 commercial models you would normally see when dealing with SASE and SSE. As Rob explained, when building MSA, we created clear separation between the vendor subscriptions and the managed service. If you are selling the vendor subscriptions without any service on top, this is model 1, which is pure ERS. This was the main model used before we had MSA. This is similar to selling a car to a customer. The customer owns the car. They are responsible to drive it. They take it to the service center to change the oil. They do regular maintenance, and if they have any issue, they will get in touch directly with the manufacturer or the representative. Once Orange Cyber Defense completes an ERS deal, we are out of the picture. In Model 2, the customer owns the car. They might have bought the car from Orange Cyber Defense, from Verizon, or from anyone else. They are realizing at a point in time that they need help to operate this car, make the best use out of the investment they have done. This is similar to, and they basically need managed service. So this is as if they are hiring an experienced driver. The driver is now responsible to interface with the car manufacturer, provides a recommendation on when is the right time to change the oil and how to make the best use of the car. If we go back to the MSA context, in this model, we allow customers to bring their own subscriptions, whether they have bought them through Orange Cyber Defense or from anyone else. In Model 3 is where we see most of the deals today. This is where we do 2 transactions with the customer, one to sell them the car and the other one to provide them with the experienced driver. In model number 4, this is where the customer does not want to buy a car, but is interested in a transportation service like Uber. This is basically the building, the bundling of the driver and the car, while the customer only pays for a service. The scope of MSA is model 3, 2, 3, and 4. Remember, the unique asset that we sell is the experienced driver, not the car. Yeah, just keep in mind, model 4 requires MSSP agreement with the vendors. If you have one of those Uber-like opportunities, please highlight them early in the pre-sales process. So before we start opening the pricing calculator, few concepts that had to be clear in your mind. Number one, the pricing calculator only covers the MSS pricing. It does not cover the vendor subscriptions. It does not cover the SDM, the consultancy, the project management. And it's worth mentioning as well that the MSS pricing is the same across all vendors, and I will cover this later. As Zoe quickly highlighted, there are two delivery models: a global delivery model, which utilizes the full pool of resources, including EU resources, and an EU delivery model, which is for customers with business requirements that mandates that they get supported out of Europe. Of course, keep in mind that the quality is the same in both models, but the EU delivery is more expensive. The involvement of the central pre-sales team is currently mandatory, as Rob mentioned, until we have enough local expertise to be able to work in autonomy. So Dan will put in the chat the link how you can engage the pre-sales support team. We understand that the in-country expertise around the MSA service, around the different vendors may vary from one country to the other. Global operation has a central team who can fully do the build phase. For those of you who know them, the TIO teams. And their pricing is now integrated as part of the latest version of the pricing calculator. So there are two options in the calculator. Either you do a central build by global operation, or you do a local in-country build. If you go for the later, you make sure that you scope and price it with the local in-country resources. Few other points to keep in mind, and yeah, if you are doing anything, if you have not been paying attention, please pay attention to this slide. It's very important. The costs which are presented in the pricing calculator are the true costs to deliver the scoped service. This is in line with the margin transparency initiative. But what I would like to highlight is the pricing is independent of the cost, which means the price is not dependent on how much the service costs us internally. The MSS pricing has been benchmarked with external entities, and it has been, and this benchmarking has been validated in all the opportunities we have been working on. In fact, our price is slightly below the market price, and it's worth mentioning as well that although we have lost some MSA opportunities, none of them was because of pricing. So be confident that the MSS pricing is aligned with the market, even if you see unusually high margins in the calculator, 50, 60, maybe sometimes more in the pricing calculator. And this brings me to the third point. Please avoid using a cost plus margin approach. For instance, a request to please bring me down to 30% margin, 40% margin, or any number. Unfortunately, this indicates that we have not positioned the value of the service beforehand, and we are entering a price war, or we are only shooting in a dark room. So please avoid this approach of selling. It destroys value, it leaves money on the table, and it doesn't help us to achieve the margin, the profitability ambitions that we would like to achieve. Justified discounts are always welcome. So we know that, yeah, not all deals are the same. There is a discount approval process. Dan, if you can put it in the chat, I would appreciate that. And we did highlight it already when we were scrolling the microsite.
Just FYI, John, you have 10 minutes for the rest of your presentation.
Okay, let's see what I can do. So this is the managed service price, 3 service level, core standard premium, and this is how much it costs for each service level. A couple of points to highlight. There are 7 pricing tiers, so the more users the customer has, the less the price per user is. Opportunities which are less than 1,500 users are priced as a lump sum, not as a price per user per month. And as you might have noticed, the service price is vendor independent. So this price of the service is the same on top of all vendors. So yeah, the supported SKU file is a vendor specific document. It is a spreadsheet containing 2 tabs. The first tab covers the mapping between the generic vendor modules and the names of the products, as we have seen in the vendor exhibit. It includes as well the vendor licensing guide and more importantly, what are the prerequisite SKUs that are required to both provide a complete solution as well as to provide our managed service. So when we were going through the Netscope vendor exhibit, we highlighted one of them. This is the Palo Alto supported SKUs. We have different prerequisites that needs to be met. The second tab covers the list of supported SKUs from a specific vendor, including their description taken from the vendor public price list. On the same line of each SKU, you will find the SSE functionality which each SKU provides. Those are the same modules that needs to be checked in the pricing tool in step number 3, and which we will cover hopefully today. We have done it this way because with some vendors, they may include a basic functionality, for instance, a DLP or a DEM, that doesn't allow us to provide the managed services described in the service description. You will see this a lot when working with Zscaler, where they would include a very basic level of certain services like ZDX. This gives customer a taste of the service, but it really does not allow us to provide the value on top. Any SKU that is not listed in this file means it is not supported and it must be approved during pre-sales. A small logical dependency, but I'll try to cover this very quickly. It does not make sense to provide a managed DLP policy if you don't have the underlying DLP subscription. So yeah, this is a logic dependency. If you do one of those mistakes in the pricing tool, it will generate a warning for you. But the other way around, some customers may have some DLP subscriptions, but they are not interested in the managed service on top. We see this happening when a customer is buying a bundle because it's commercially more attractive and it includes extra functionality which they will not be using. So you can optimize the price in this way if you would like by only selecting the managed service modules which would is needed by the customer. So I have said this for DLP policy, but the same would apply for the CASB policy management and the user experience management. So let's do a pricing exercise, and I don't think we will be able to go through it fully. So I'll just.
John,
yep.
Can I suggest we skip this pricing exercise and finalize also with what we want to show from a recording perspective? We have 6 minutes left, so you want to be able to do this properly. And you want to do the MSA agent as last as well.
So the idea is to check those SKUs in the supported SKU list. I'll not go through the pricing now, but if you did attend the sales session, we have gone through a more simplified version of a pricing exercise. I would suggest that you go through that, or if not, attend one of the upcoming sessions for sales or pre-sales. Yeah, we will try to be more time efficient. Yeah. So I'll. Let me jump directly into. So we have been working on an MSA AI agent. There are lots of tools, lots of documents that we have gone through, and we would not expect that you know each and everything. So we have created a digital AI sales assistant, which should be able to help you. This is currently, it runs on top of the microsite, as well as the different documents, the spreadsheets, the presentations, the blogs, the analyst reports, and it uses them as its knowledge base. The MSA AI agent is currently under training, tuning, and it will be live soon. But until this happens, let me show you what it can help you achieve. Let's say you have a new customer opportunity and you would like to know how to price MSA. As any AI agent, you need to start by the prompt or the question that you want to ask. The agent will go and check the different information in the knowledge in its knowledge base, so the microsite and all the other products related documents, and it will provide you with 10 steps. Here, for example, for pricing, there is a blog specifically which talks about the 10 steps to use for doing the pricing. It is referring to it in here. It provides you as well with the location where to access the latest version of the pricing tool. And more importantly, or most importantly, it gives you the references that it used to answer your question. So in this case, it relied on 2 SharePoint pages. Please always check those references because AI can do errors here. What else can the MSAI agent provide? You can ask it for questions related to product features, split of responsibilities. So for example, what does MSA cover end user support? We know it doesn't, okay? And it correctly found the answer. You can ask it for generic market trends, like, okay, give me what is the growth of the SASE market here in the coming X years. You can ask it as well to explain concepts like zero trust. If it does not find the information in its knowledge base, it can check more public resources, but definitely we prioritize internal resources first. And you can accelerate pricing. So we were talking about the idea of to check the SKUs whether they are supported or not. So this is an example where I provided it with a Zscaler code, and I asked it to go and check whether all the SKUs in this code is currently supported or not. So yeah. I take this opportunity to remind you with the upcoming sessions. So the next session is on Wednesday, and then we will start running the afternoon sessions for our teams in the Americas so that they are able. So we will run the full tracks once again. And this is, please check the first link that then posted. It basically explains who should attend what. This brings us to the end of today's presentation. Please take a minute to answer 2 questions in this survey. It helps us keep on delivering quality and useful content for you. Then if you can put the link on the chat, and please, it only takes 2 minutes. If it was useful, if it was not useful, please say something. So thank you so much for your attendance today. I don't think we have time for questions, but if you have any, please put it in the chat and we will get back to you.
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, all questions have been answered. So in case you're missing anything specifically, again, reiterate what you were saying so that we can get to it. So feel free to use this chat. We will be monitoring it for the rest of the day anyways.
Thank you so much.